pressure off the edge, and it's intercepted. D'Angelo Pond, roll out the big red carpet, touchdown Indiana.
It's time for the big red carpet. Here's your host, Rhett Lewis.
Fellow Hoosiers, excited to roll out the big red carpet for the first time. Welcome. I am Rhett Lewis. It is great to be here with you. This is the Big Red Carpet, an IU football show on the Back Home Network. Big thanks to Galen Clavio of Crimson Cast for bringing me into the fold this season. Be sure to check out all their great IU football content over on Crimson Cast throughout the season. But I'm fired up, man, because we're going to be with you each and every Monday as the season goes on, with a look back at the game that just happened, a look ahead to what's coming up for Indiana this season, a season filled with expectations, the likes of which I could not have imagined when I was playing back in 2001 to 2005. But fired up for it, and we've made it to game week, which is always a great feeling. Old Dominion coming to the Rock on Saturday, 2:30 Eastern time. Let's pack the Rock. Let's defend the Rock, and we'll get this season off to a good start. So coming up today on this show, what we're going to do for you, I'll give you a look at how I expect Indiana to kind of line up in this first game, what it's really going to look like, what Old Dominion brings to the table. And then I also want to give you my top 5 Indiana football players that I'm most excited to watch for this season for a number of different reasons. That'll be some newcomers there. There'll be some guys that are returning into some different roles. So fired up to go through that with you guys, because I'm sure that you have some of those of your own as well. Always welcome feedback and any kind of comments, any kind of questions that you guys have about Indiana football. Feel free to lodge them my way. You can hit me up at Rhett NFL on X and on Instagram. But before we really get going, we got to begin with a word on our namesake, the Big Red Carpet. You remember it, right? The call, one of the seminal moments of this Indiana football season back in 2024. College game day was in the house. It was the most excitement and anticipation for an Indiana football game ever. And I don't think there was any question at that time. I was down there on the sideline as part of the Big Ten Network broadcast of that game, and still cannot believe what it felt like that day. And then the roar. When D'Angelo Pons picked off Will Rogers and took that thing back to the house, I still kind of get goosebumps with it. And I was talking to Coach Signetti about it earlier this week. I mean, like, that moment was such a big moment for me, as I tried to keep my professional hat on for the duration of that game. But to have that feeling and to see Memorial Stadium, to see the Rock go absolutely insane with that play, it was incredible. Now look, sure, Gus Johnson had the call on the Asbury interception against Nebraska, right? They got a football team now. Well, look, we knew that at that point. And this game comes afterwards. It was with expectations sky high, and it was a moment with the entire college football world watching Bloomington, Indiana, and the Indiana Hoosiers, that they rose to the occasion. And so did our broadcast crew. It started with our director, Pat O'Connor, who had the foresight to zoom out right as Pons is sprinting for 6 there after making the interception, to see the crowd go absolutely nuts in a frenzy in that moment. And then, of course, for my guy, Guy Haberman, off the cuff with professional execution, the perfect emotional capture of one of the moments of the Indiana football scene. And you've now seen it everywhere since that day, right? It was even on the Indiana football official kind of, video of Hoosier the Bison being brought back into the fold. It was going on in Coach Sig's office right there. I imagine it should be playing everywhere in the building. It was that big. It was that good. And so fitting that the Big Red Carpet's first guest is the author of the call, my guy, Guy Haberman, play-by-play guy on our crew for Big Ten Network. And along with Yogi Roth, man, we have a great time. And Guy, gracious enough to give us a few minutes today. What's up, buddy?
We do have a great time. Does this make me an honorary Hoosier? This is very exciting.
Dude. You're in. You are riding the Big Red Carpet with us, buddy.
Well, it was, I didn't have a lifetime of Indiana football in my background, but just like you get chills, I get chills. Like it's yeah. We have D'Angelo Pons, so a lot of people to thank for it. But it was one of my highlights for sure. One of my big career. I mean, just in terms of what I enjoyed being a part of was that moment.
Yeah.
Not because of the call, being there that day.
That's what I wanted to ask you, man.
It was a noon game, so we were there really early.
Oh yeah.
McAfee, I could hear McAfee from the booth because I just wanted to get there. You know how it is.
Yeah.
some crews, people show up, generally TV crews show up maybe 2.5, 3 hours before a game. That is not our crew.
No,
we hate being in the hotel. So we were there very early and just kind of drinking it in. It was, we felt lucky going into that day to be a part of that day.
I couldn't. I mean, the fact that we got to do that game was absolutely incredible. Obviously for me being a Hoosier alum and having played, on that turf in that stadium, and to see it like that, I just remember the questions, like, every week, like probably after the UCLA game, the questions were, what's it like? Like, what's it going to be like? And I just remember my answer being, I have no idea. It was never like this when I was here. What do I have to compare it to?
It wasn't like it week 3 when we
were there for Charlotte. That was the thing. Like, how would you kind of compare that? How would you kind of describe that atmosphere? Certainly having been there at Charlotte and seeing it was still very much building at that point. It was like, that was crescendo.
Can I say something? Like, now that I feel like I'm in,
yeah.
You know how, like, you can't criticize my brother, but I can criticize my brother.
Yes.
Now that I'm in, I hope I can say this without it being disrespectful. When we were there week 3, I was like, I guess this is Indiana football.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it had been.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
We got to go to what's your Knicks? Was at the bar where your jersey's up in the back, and like that was fun. And Signetti, like, and the coaches and the players were awesome. Like, we got to meet with them Friday and like meeting everybody, and like everybody was great. And then it was Charlotte, and the crowd was all right. Now, Indiana had gone and they had the early road game at the Rose Bowl, and it was like, is this? Nah, maybe UCLA.
Is this real? Right.
Whatever.
Right.
And then it was, but then to come to see it build.
Yeah.
Kind of with the understanding that I think there's a lot of substance in this program now.
Yeah.
With what Kurt Signetti did. I think that's what we left Indiana after week 3 believing is, I don't know what it is, but there's something here.
Yeah.
And so then to come back, and it was it like Parents Weekend or something?
It was insane. It was just insanity.
Whatever. Maybe it wasn't Parents Weekend. It was just a zoo. We couldn't get, hotel rooms, walking on campus. The weather was perfect. Oh my God.
I mean, they were lining up for game day as we were leaving the stadium on Friday after production meetings. It was like in the afternoon. It's like, it's gonna be a long night. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I know you hear stories about people lining up at 4 a.m. I mean, this was 4 p.m. the day before that people were lining up. So it was insane, but it was a picture of what was to come, for Indiana in the most successful season in the program's history. And it was really cool to kind of be a part of that. But as for that moment, like, when did it first hit you at what Pat, our director, was doing? Right. Because I know your eyes are on the field a lot. You're watching the monitor sometime, but like, when did you first realize, holy smokes, like, he nailed that moment too, with the way he kind of pulled out of that thing.
Yeah, he and our camera operator Donna was on that camera, and I know Donna's awesome, and I know Pat. It's a good question. I don't remember if I saw it live or if I saw it after.
Yeah,
like you said, the monitors there. I'm usually calling the game through wide angle binoculars, so I can see everything, but I'm usually not looking at the monitor. So it might have been. My guess is what happened is, like, I called it, pulled him down, and then I saw that the thing was wide, and it worked for a variety of reasons. I think once I called it and knew I was going to lay out, then I kind of keep an eye on what the monitor's doing. Yeah. The fact that there was a 60-yard shadow from the big American flag also added to just the size, the size of it. Yeah. And I think, you go back to your original point. I remember we came on TV that day with a drone shot coming from the practice field. That was also, Pat deciding, let's do that live, which is risky with a drone. It's a wireless, it's far away. Like, it can always take a hit. And that was a great shot. And I go back to what we really felt, what we were feeling was, we'll go to a lot of there's so many places that have sold out stadiums.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm a San Francisco Giants baseball fan. There was a stretch where they won 3 World Series in 5 years.
Yeah.
I live in the Bay Area, the 49ers of the 80s and the 90s. And, you win 5. But people who were here for the first one are always like, you don't understand what a release it was to win that first Super Bowl. And, like, when I think about the San Francisco Giants, the first of the 3 is just different than the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, we'll go to Penn State week 2 and it'll be sold out. And I can't wait. It's going to be an incredible experience. Right. But it really felt like whatever comes next, hopefully it's 25 straight years of Big Ten championship contention for Indiana football. Like the first one is just different.
We were a part of it. It was neat.
You were in the student section, I remember, for your first hit, which was
part of the part 1B of the first hit. Because we interviewed Sig. And,
that's right.
And then we sprinted over to the student
section.
And I didn't know what camera.
He was so happy to be interviewed. In that moment. But in hindsight, I didn't intend it this way. But like in hindsight, the red part of the red carpet, is like you're rolling it out for the first time,
right?
So to speak. I know it's not but you know what I mean. Like that's part of. Anyway,
the red carpet,
I don't know why. I can't believe you named your podcast this.
I'm
glad to be a part of it.
But college football has never rolled out the red carpet for Indiana,
right?
And so by the way, underrated call that did not go viral the way that one was. Taven Jackson, I think a lot of people forget, started that game for the injured Curtis Rourke. And I think you had a back home again in Indiana call as Taven ran in for a touchdown, the Indiana kid, right?
Yeah, there were two other. This is the only place I can talk about it because it's like any other place, it's too self-indulgent. But there were two other kind of Easter eggs in that game. One was we went to break. I like going to, I know, great broadcast, great journalism school in Indiana. I like adding things going to commercial break. I think it's a place where people just kind of throw it away back after this. I think it's a fun place if you can. Doesn't always work to inject something useful. So we had a slow-mo replay of him running it in. And I said, back home again. Taven Jackson, once a Tennessee Volunteer, back home again in Indiana. And then the other one, I don't know if you remember or even caught the other one, which is part of this happens because it's my first year in the Big Ten.
Right.
So week 3, I'm just doing all the Indiana research and I'm asking you questions. I'm like, hey, is this a thing? You just don't want to screw up the mascot name, the town name, the stadium name, the best coach in history name, all that kind of stuff. And I just remembered week 3, I'd been reading something about the Indiana State Basketball Hall of Fame has a plaque that says in 49 other states it's just basketball, or in 49 other states it's basketball. And this is
this is Indiana.
And I was like, when we came back, I remembered that, and I was like, that'd be fun, but to replace basketball with football, right? Like in 49 other states it's just football, but this is Indiana. So that one's in there somewhere going to break too. And I was really happy we got to work that one in because it was kind of just like and I got a few people message me like, what are you talking about? Like Indiana, like that's 49 other states. You think that's which is perfect.
Guys,
like that's all I want is like somebody to be wrongly offended by.
Yes, of course. Broadcast craft nerd alert on this one, but like, so when I, as a receiver, when I was playing and I knew a ball was coming to me, my eyes get wide, right? Eyes get big. Like you're kind of anticipating the moment. Like when you felt that play developing, because as I recall, it was like off a deflection. It was kind of a funky little play. It was probably pretty good. You had the binoculars to kind of see it unfold. And that booth is high at Indiana on that side, on the high side of Memorial Stadium. But like when you know that something big is happening, like do you feel it? Do your eyes kind of get, kind of big? Or is it just kind of happens?
It's a great question. I mean, in hindsight, I think I said pressure off the edge or something like that. But I think it was CJ West was also somebody blew up the middle of that play.
Yeah, probably CJ. I mean,
and he might have been the one that got a hand. Somebody got a hand on it there, or the ball might have just come out funky because of
the pressure. Yeah.
Because of the pressure. So I mean, I guess so. It all happens so fast.
I know.
I wish I could tell you I remembered every millisecond of it.
I do.
But I just remember, the thing broadcast nerd, the thing that's so critical is who did it. If you know who did it right away, then you can be free to do whatever else. If you don't know who did it right away, then you're scrambling to figure out who's doing it.
Yeah. And then the call.
And then you're not free to do anything. And, I could have 10 more of those plays and the call might just be Pons taking it to the house, whatever. Nobody's going to get him. I don't know. So you have to get really lucky. Like I've been doing this 20 years, let's say, give or take.
Yeah.
The moment you can't have that call in some game that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When the score doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if the score's 31-7.
Yeah.
Like
it'll be tougher for Brando to do that against Old Dominion on FS1 this Saturday.
But I mean, it's like there is a call that actually is perfect for that moment. You just, will it hit you? Will it all come together? Just like football, like there's probably so many. You could have scored 15 touchdowns, but it all came together.
Sure. Well,
how many times did it all come together?
What do you mean?
For a Rhett Lewis Kleinschmidt touchdown?
No, none. Unfortunately.
None?
Let's go with 15. I like that. Okay. We'll play 15.
But there could have been 15.
A couple of catches. I mean, the folks in the big house remember. Pam Ward remembers botching the call of my biggest catch. She remembers, I think.
Well, that's perfect, actually.
Yeah. I think they were in a promo when I made the catch.
Oh, you're like when was it Nikola Jokic got drafted during a commercial break or something?
That's right. Future MVP. Well, look, that's a masterclass right there for everybody. It's going to take one of Galen's classes or one of the classes in the media school at IU here this fall. You got some from one of the best in the business right there, and proud to get to call him a teammate and a crewmate. My guy Haberman, appreciate you for being a part of the inaugural episode of the Big Red Carpet. Thanks,
thanks, man. This is awesome.
Hoosier Nation, are you tired of the same old takes? Say hello to Crimson Cast. Hosted by Galen Clavio and Scott Caulfield, they serve up sharp analysis, real talk, and just enough sarcasm to keep things interesting. Game previews? Check. Instant reactions? Double check. History lessons that make even our losses worth remembering? You bet. So whether you're tailgating at Memorial Stadium, pacing around Assembly Hall, or just avoiding Purdue fans, Crimson Cast has you covered. Search Crimson Cast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and join the conversation today.
Man, awesome to get a chance to chat with Guy Haberman. We are on the call of the Missouri State USC game from the Coliseum this weekend, hoping that the schedule brings us back to Bloomington for another game here. But either way, I think I'm going to have an opportunity to get to Illinois, Indiana, week 4, which, look, we'll have a whole episode on that coming up in a couple of weeks. But that is like a potential college football playoff implication game down the road. So I'm fired up to maybe just be a fan, maybe bring the big red carpet down to the grass fields across the street from Memorial Stadium, have some fun with you guys out there, which should be a good night in a couple of weeks. But let's focus in on this week. Still to come here in this episode, we'll give you a brief primer on Old Dominion. We want to talk a little bit about, what I think is the strength of this offense and perhaps this team overall. Get into that. And then I've got my 5 most exciting players to get to, just to recap what we have left in this episode. And maybe a question from the big voice guy that you heard at the top of the show in our intro. All right, let's start here with the position group that I think is one of the strongest and deepest on this year's team. And it shouldn't really be a secret the way that Coach Sig has kind of talked about this group. It will also make my friend who is emblazoned on this T-shirt that I'm sporting for this episode very happy. That, of course, is Big Cat, or as some now call him, the Nightcrawler, Mike Kadick. We try to get Kadick on here with us down the road, but look, he's left that, let this offensive line in a really nice spot, right? Really built a nice foundation there. I think it all starts at left tackle, obviously with Carter Smith, a guy with major NFL ability. I'm thinking, at this point, you're talking about a potential day 2 type of player, 2nd, 3rd round pick. Hope he sticks around because he's got another year of eligibility, I think. So hoping he sticks around for as long as possible. But he is a legit left tackle prospect in the NFL, and excited to see what he holds down another year out there protecting the blind side of the quarterback and creating room in the run game. And then really excited about the guard depth. I think better than we've seen in recent years. So just overall depth, really, but any combination of Bray Lynch, Drew Evans, Zen Mahalski, even Adeyajani, a young player in there, has the ability to step in and really provide some really comfortable, I would say. That's probably the word that I would use. I feel like Bob Bostad should be comfortable with where that group is and the depth that's up there if somebody has to miss some time. And then, of course, getting Khalil Benson back is huge. Out at right tackle, he obviously has played guard before as well. So, you've got positional flexibility there. If somebody goes down, you can shuffle pieces. That's a really big piece of this group, is that depth and just kind of how the level of play doesn't really dip that much if you've got to move somebody from outside that starting five into the lineup as the season goes on. Really pays to have that depth, because you might remember, against Notre Dame at the end, we're talking about, preseason, the fourth guard, right? Talking, when Drew Evans went down and, obviously had the injury preseason to Kidwell. And so you kind of go down the line. We were kind of, starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel there at the end. I think here you're set up for some really good depth along the offensive line. So I think that's the position group that really has me fired up for where it can help take this team ultimately at the end of the season. Okay. With that, let's get to the 5 players I'm most excited to watch. And it is an extension of the offensive line, because the player that's top of my list right there is Pat Coogan, the center, Pat Coogan. Okay. I think we hated him for about 4 hours in December. But damn, did we respect him, right? I mean, the way he led that team, that group, the way he got that group fired up, that is a glue guy type of deal right there. And I know it's only going to be a year, but I think that's a guy that can really help raise the level of play, right? Raise the level of expectation for the guys that are going to be on either side of him, to the left and right. Really excited for Pat Coogan and the leadership and just the ability that he's going to be able to bring at the center spot. Going to be a lot of fun to watch him lead that group. Okay. The next one's a little different, okay? I'm going to call them the opposites. And this is a number of guys, so you have to give my list a little leeway here. Opposite Mikhail Kamara, because we know what Kamara is, okay? And even before we get into that, let's also just say, a lot of these guys that I'm talking about here, let's preface this. These are guys that are going to be new to their position, new to the team. I think we get caught up in that. Who's going to replace this person? Who's going to replace this? How do we replace that production from this position group? Indiana's success will not necessarily be predicated on how they replace guys who are no longer here, but it will be predicated on core players and performers from a year ago. Elijah Surratt, Mikhail Kamara, D'Angelo Ponce, Aiden Fisher, raising their game to another level. And I think we need to keep that in perspective too. Those guys will be relied upon even more so as we go forward, because that expectation that they've already set, and then their ability to raise the bar. Obviously, the replacements, if you will, and that's not necessarily a term of endearment, I think a lot of times, but in this case it is, will be relied upon, no question. But your core guys have to be your core guys, and they have to be better than they were a year ago. So keeping that in mind. All right, so back to the list, the opposites. So opposite Mikhail Kamara, I'm really excited about Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly. And I know Brian Hayes is too, the defense coordinator for IU, went out and got these guys very intentionally, right? Because of their skill sets and because of what they can bring and what they will be required to bring, knowing that teams are going to set protections towards Mikhail Kamara. They might run away from Kamara in the run game. So that group on the other side of Kamara, they're going to get tested. And I think it's not necessarily, hey, one's the starter, one's the backup. It's the ability to be game plan specific with Daly and Wyatt. I think Wyatt's got great versatility. I think early on, there's a chance you probably see him a little bit more just because he's got a little bit more to his skill set. And I think it will be kind of a week to week thing on, who sees the bulk of the snaps there. But I think each week, each guy is going to have his a real opportunity to make big time plays opposite Mikhail Kamara. So those two kind of fit in that opposite category for me. And then another big one is opposite D'Angelo Ponce, who teams are not going to run out there and want to challenge down in and down out in the pass game. He can come up and make some stops in the run game too now. Certainly not afraid of that. And I love that about D'Angelo Ponce's game. He plays with a real edge. If Coach Haynes wants to get aggressive, he's a guy that can get home on a blitz, which I love. But opposite Ponce, I think a lot of people thought, Rylan Gandy comes in from Pitt, Knighton comes in from Northern Illinois, but Jamari Sharp is just sitting here like, hey guys, I can do this too. And we've seen Jamari Sharp's talent, right? We've seen his skills, like the fact that he is an extremely fast dude, right? Up and down the field, straight line speed he's probably winning a bunch of those summer conditioning tests with Coach Owings. Just the fact that he is very fast. To me, the issue with Jamari Sharp has always been confidence. Guy beat you once, don't let them beat you twice, right? Don't let that one play beat you twice. So that's something for me with Jamari Sharp, for him to take another step and if he is in fact going to be the starter opposite D'Angelo Ponds, it's the ability to not let one play beat you twice. Flush that, get back into it, go make another play on the football, and just keep your confidence high. I mean, there's a reason, like you look at CB, right? The abbreviation for cornerback, that C should stand for confidence. You have to be a dude that plays with an edge no matter the result of the play before. You got to come back, wipe that thing, and get right back into it. And for me, that's something that can allow Jamari Sharp, at least, looking at it from the outside, watching practices, like, he's got all the ability in the world. He now has a real comfortability within this system and what's asked of him. He's going to be challenged if he's standing there opposite D'Angelo Ponds. And now it's his ability to have that confidence stay with him and help build him up instead of break it down. So Jamari Sharp, Wyatt and Daly, the opposites. And then this one kind of goes a little bit into that category too, although I wouldn't necessarily call it opposite, but next to. And that's the guy next to Aiden Fisher, who was Jalen Walker a year ago and made so many plays for this defense. And this year, we even saw him in the 3 linebacker sets when you had 2 tight ends in the ball game for the opposing offense. You'd see Elijah Hardy come in, and as a young player, made some real plays. I mean, found his way to the end zone. We've seen him in the spring game make plays. He is a human takeaway waiting to happen. And Ro Hardy, let's say it this way, the ball finds Elijah Hardy. And now that's not just luck, right? That's not just happenstance. That's preparation. That's understanding where you need to be, when you need to be there, and then making a play when it's there to be made. And that's easier said than done. I was definitely one of those guys who knew where I was supposed to be, didn't always make the play. Okay. So it is definitely a 2-part thing, right? You got to have the preparation, the football IQ, especially in this defense at that position, at that linebacker spot in the second level for Coach Haynes. Like, you're going to be asked to do a lot. You got to understand where these guys are going in front of you and the ability and the freedom that they have to, kind of correct whatever deficiencies there might be at the line of scrimmage. And then, obviously, get your hands on a football, pick a ball off, be around the ball. And that's the thing where it's, where swarming to the football and, getting a bunch of hats to the ball carrier allows you the opportunity. That ball pops out, bam, you're popping on it, right? You're falling on it. And that's what Elijah Hardy has been and will continue to do. I'm really excited to see what he does. And he's got a great guy to sit there, learn from, be inspired from, and then just to kind of get helped out by in Aiden Fisher. So Fish and Elijah Hardy, certainly excited about that tandem going into this season. Okay. Fourth guy, fourth player, fourth group, however you want to categorize this. The fourth line item on this list is Fernando Mendoza, clearly. New QB1, certainly NFL talent. We've seen it at Cal. There's a reason he is here. Coach Sig was, very intentional in bringing this player in. And, to me, the thing that sticks out is, I think it was actually asked today in Sig's news conference, was about the leadership. I actually had talked to Coach Signetti about that the week prior, because there is a natural and an inherent leadership responsibility that comes with being a starting quarterback at any level. Whether you're a vocal guy or you're not, like Curtis Rourke was, you let your play speak for you, you let your work ethic speak for you. That's fine too. But I had asked, Coach Sig, like, if there were tangible moments where he has seen Fernando Mendoza grab the attention and the respect of this team and of his teammates. And he was, without equivocation, was like, absolutely he has seen that. That's really exciting to me, because that is one of the hard parts, I believe, of the transfer portal and of a quarterback who comes into a team that was in the dang college football playoff a year ago and is, straight up in terms of, trending and positivity, to come in and assert yourself that way with the way you work, the way you play, the way you connect with your teammates all across the locker room, right? It's not just your receiver. It's not just your offensive line. What about those guys on the defensive side of the ball? They got to be able to rally around you too. And to hear from Coach Sig that is something that Fernando has done very well thus far, it gives me a lot of confidence, because he's got all the skills to take this offense to another level this year. His arm talent is incredible. I think he is going to provide even more mobility from the pocket. And while I don't think we're going to see him run for, 600 yards, I think, on a 3rd and 4 and a 3rd and 5, he is dangerous to get out of the pocket and use his legs to move the sticks. So that's something that I think we really didn't have a year ago. For all that Curtis did well, that wasn't one of his strengths. I think that's something that Fernando can bring to the table here, in addition to what he does down the field. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then the final line item on this list is whomever is lined up next to Fernando, right? You got to replace like 20 rushing touchdowns from a year ago with Justice Ellison, Elijah Green, Kalon Black, and obviously Tyson Lawton. This group, I'm really intrigued by. Hemby, Kalon Black remains, and then Lee Beebe comes in from UAB. Hemby and Beebe in particular, I think, have an ability to really test defenses with their receiving skills. Hemby caught 40 balls a year ago. Beebe caught 30 balls a year ago. Now, if they can pass protect, because look, on third down, you're going to have to be able to pass protect to be in there regardless. So whether you're the best receiver, the team has, out of the backfield, like you got to be able to hold up in pass protection if that's the way the play ends up developing. So I think that's something that obviously Coach Miller works with those guys. The running backs coach here at IU works with those guys, day in and day out. But I'm excited about the ability of those guys to catch the ball. I thought Kalon Black last year was really fun to watch in his limited opportunities. Like he's a guy to me that finishes runs, like aggressive, downhill. Like I like the mentality of the offense when Kalon Black has the ball in his hands. That's something I'm really excited to see this year in maybe an elevated role or a more expanded role with more touches. I think those guys, look, I don't know if you can expect 20 rushing touchdowns out of that group. That was a pretty epic run for the running backs a year ago. But I think they'll be right up there in terms of helping this offense dictate and attack defenses from a run game perspective. So those are a couple of guys, a couple of positions, a couple of different ways to look at players that I was most excited to watch after seeing some practices, watching games from a year ago, watching players game tape from their previous schools. That's something that's going to be those are a few names that are going to be exciting. A couple of honorable mentions here for you. And look, Devin Boykin is one of those guys that came in, from NC State, experienced dude, comes off an injury, but, has been healthy throughout camp. I think I'm most excited because I'm not exactly sure where he's going to play. And I think that really speaks to his skill set. And look, Coach Haynes is ultimately going to do what's best for him, what's best for this defense, put him in the best position to make plays. But I think he's got potential at free safety back there, kind of letting everything unfold in front of him as a veteran. I think he's got really good ball skills. Got some good hands that there are potential for takeaways there with Boykin in the back end. I think you could see him down at Rover, in that slot position. So that's one, I'm excited about. And then, I think part of where he ends up playing will be due to, in part impacted by another honorable mention here, the true freshman, Byron Baldwin. One of the highest ranked recruits Indiana has had in recent memory, physical talent. I think you could see him with some time at Rover. I think you could see him, if that middle side comes along, I think there are situations where he could really help impact. Now he's got to be available, right? You got to first understand that, as a true freshman, the body's going to take some hits here. It's got to be able to hold up. So availability is going to be a big thing for Byron Baldwin, both physically and then mentally, like his availability to absorb all this information that's going to be coming. This is, I don't know if I want to say it's complicated. I would say it's complex in terms of this defense. Like there's a lot that goes on play to play, call to call. But ultimately it allows players to play free once they understand it. So I think understanding what he could do is and understanding his availability period, I think will be really fun to watch as it develops throughout the season. Maybe it doesn't happen week 1, right? Maybe it does happen week 8, week 9, week 10, and that'll be really exciting as you make the playoff push. Last one, LeBron Bond, honorable mention there. Going to rotate in, I think, with this one group. I think like he's got the opportunity to be a top 4, 5, 6 receiver, in this offense. Now, look, I mean, Surratt, Cooper, EJ Williams, I think those 3 guys are guys you're going to see catch a lot of balls here. But LeBron Bond is sudden and he is exciting with the ball in his hands. So I think there are ways to get him the football that I think are going to help IU move down the football field and create some explosive plays. And don't forget about Charlie Becker. For a big guy, he can go. We saw him on special teams a bunch a year ago. I think he sees a larger role on offense this year. And then I think if you were following, what's been going on with Lou Moore, who we knew a couple of years ago, left to go to Ole Miss, is back. It's kind of dealing with the NCAA eligibility situation. Nothing resolved on that front yet here as we record on a Monday. Coach Sig said they're kind of dealing with that the best they can. Remains to be seen how much we'll end up seeing Lou Moore, but would be a really valuable depth and rotational piece if he ends up getting that year that he is desiring. Okay, quickly here on Old Dominion. Look, Colton Joseph is the straw that stirs the drink. The quarterback, one of the most productive players in the Sun Belt a year ago. But you remember, well, I'll get to that in a second. But Colton's going to be the starting quarterback here. Look, they finished on a 3-game losing streak, but he had some plays in some of these games where, there's an ability, to run with the football. There's an ability to move the ball with some explosive plays. And as Sig was talking about today, and if you watch Old Dominion, like you'll really see them, they're going to attack you horizontally, right? They're going to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. They're going to try to, whether it's a smoke screen, whether it's, quickly out to the back, they're going to find ways to test you horizontally and to test the width of the field and your ability to cover it. They have, as Coach Sig was mentioning today, they got, this 2-foot splits with these offensive linemen. So they are really spreading it out. So, and look, part of that is, I think they probably understand that in most games, especially non-conference games against Power 5, Power 4 foes, like, you're just not going to sit there and be able to run power, between the tackles against, a team like Indiana or a team like some of the non-conference games that group of 5 teams have to end up playing. So they're going to try to make their hay out on the edges. And I think that's going to be a challenge for Indiana. So I'm excited to see how they really step up to that challenge. On defense, look, Jason Henderson, 186 tackles, 170 tackles in 2022 and 2023, respectively. Like, this dude is around the football. He is the Aiden Fisher to Old Dominion. Only 1 game last year before getting hurt. So he's coming back off injury, but that dude will be around the football, and you will hear his name, hopefully not until Indiana, has moved the ball a bunch, and you're seeing his name called as on the tackle after 8, 9, 18, 19-yard gains. That would make some sense to me. The X factor in this one might be Grant Wilson, who started the season opener for Old Dominion at quarterback a year ago and is now an Indiana Hoosier. By the way, Grant Wilson had this team a couple of minutes away from a victory in Columbia against South Carolina. 23-19, they ended up losing, threw a couple of picks in the game, but accounted for 2 touchdowns, threw for nearly 200 yards. And I would just say I'd bet, because there is some staff continuity there at Old Dominion this year, I would bet, that maybe Coach Haynes, maybe Coach Ojan, maybe, Coach Buddha, Coach Kuntz have maybe just walked off the field casually with Grant Wilson over the course of fall camp, just to be like, hey, we worked on this today in practice. Is this something that you think might cause Old Dominion a little bit of trouble based off what you know about their offense? So I think that, it's minimal. I don't think that's going to be a huge factor, but it might be something down the road where it impacts a player or two here or there. And obviously you're always looking for any kind of edge. Okay, that's kind of it here as we get ready for the season opener this Saturday. Fired up to watch that game before my game kicks off at the Coliseum against USC. But one more time, wanted to say hello to the great support staff we have here. Peter and Nathan are going to be with us throughout the season. And then big voice guy, otherwise known as Crimson Cast, Galen Clavio, with us manning behind the proverbial glass for us today. Wanted to bring Galen on here. And as we get Peter and Nathan up to speed, hey guys, come say hello. Come say hello to the friends, to the big red carpet fandom. There they are. What's up, guys? Because I'm going to have those guys, bring some questions for us too. Maybe they're getting around campus. And we, of course, want to invite all of you guys that are consuming this content, whether it's on YouTube, on Spotify, or wherever you get your pods. Hit me up at Rhett NFL. You got questions, you got comments, you got things you are curious about with this Indiana football team. This is something we want to be a little bit interactive if you are interested in that. So we'll open this up each and every episode. So Galen, as the light behind the big red carpet, and as the guiding light behind what we do here, and for bringing me on, I wanted to reserve this first question to you, my friend. Is there something that is on your mind? 5 days to kick.
Yeah, there is. First of all, I just wanted to say, Rhett, we couldn't be more thrilled to have you on the Back Home Network doing this show. This has been amazing so far. I think the fans are going to love it all season. So thank you. My big burning question, it's less about this game coming up this week, and it's more about the maturation of this program and the things they need to do to take that next step. Yeah. Last year, they lose 2 games, and they're 2 games that you can absolutely explain they lost to the two teams that were in the national title game.
Right.
They've got 3 games, really 4 games you could circle as being big-time games this year. 3 of them are on the road. And one of the things that I think we noticed in the game at Ohio State and the game at Notre Dame last year was IU didn't look quite ready mentally and emotionally to deal with those crowds, those environments. So you got to go to Iowa, you got to go to Oregon, you got to go to Happy Valley. What do you think that this IU team and coaching staff have to do to help the squad as a whole take that step, not be as intimidated by those environments, and go in and win a big game or multiple big games on the road this year?
It's a great question. As it turns out, I can speak from a bit of experience there, because you know who the last team to beat Oregon, the last Big Ten team to beat Oregon at Autzen Stadium was, right? It was your Indiana Hoosiers in 2004.
That is the holy grail of games I haven't found video for yet. There's clips of it. There's clips, but I know there's a whole broadcast somewhere, and I've yet to actually be able to find that. Yes.
Somewhere. I hope they show me screaming my lungs out in the huddle trying to communicate. I was a placeholder, as was my main responsibility in that game. And we used to have a huddle for some reason before PATs and field goals. And we come on there after scoring the first touchdown. And I'm like looking around and I'm screaming. I can't hear myself. And I'm looking around and everybody in the huddle is like looking around. Is like, is he actually talking? Like we can't, they couldn't, no one could hear anything in that game. So that is going to be a challenge. Penn State will feel the same way. Iowa to a certain extent will feel that way too. I mean, we know what that environment was like based off, 2021, right? So I think first off, it's getting to 3-0, right? It's, and make no mistake, like Old Dominion is the toughest test that Indiana will have before Illinois week 4. With respect to Indiana State and Kennesaw State, like Old Dominion is a real Sun Belt team. Like that is one that Indiana, this is a challenge here in the season opener. So get to 3-0, and then you've got essentially your college football playoff entrance exam. Like that's what that feels like against Illinois at home, right? So we haven't hit the road yet. Understand that part. If you're able to get past Illinois, you've given yourself some cushion and a little bit of flexibility. It's going to be really hard to go into Oregon and to go into Happy Valley and beat both of those teams. Like those are two teams that are at the very top in terms of national championship contenders. Look, IU is right in that next tier, not quite in that group yet, but they're knocking at the door, right? They're clawing at the ceiling. That's your opportunity. I think the more you look at that as opportunity and the less you look at that as we've got to overcome the crap that we put out there on tape in those two opportunities from those 2 games from a year ago. You look at this is an opportunity to show up, right? Instead of like, all right, let's, if they're worrying about what happened last year in those types of environments, it's going to be another problem. So to me, and I think that's probably the way that Sig's going to frame this thing, is this is an opportunity to prove your mettle on the national stage against a true powerhouse. So I feel good about those games. I think that, the Oregon and the Iowa stretch there will be really interesting. Separated by a bye, I want to say, in between
That's
there.
Right. That's right.
And so, a chance to get healthy if you get banged up a little bit there. And then obviously, look, Penn State's been a hard place to play, but shoot, Brandon Sorsby almost engineered a victory there 2 years ago. I get it. This team is stacked, right? They are loaded again. And, Drew Aller's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So it'll be a challenge, but I think you've got to set yourself up there, and build that confidence up in those first 4 games, the first 4 or 5 games, whoever it is, before you get to Oregon. And then just go let it rip, man. Like, let it rip. And I think that's the thing that we did in that as a team in 2004. We took the ball away, right? Be great on special teams and take the ball away. Those are secrets to winning on the road, in any environment. And we did that. I think we forced 6 takeaways against Oregon in that game. And then Lance Bennett returned a kickoff for a touchdown.
Yeah, the kickoff return. That's the one everybody remembers. Absolutely.
You want to know, like, how you beat a really good team on the road. Like, now look, 6 turnovers is a bit extreme, but you get 3 extra possessions, 2 extra possessions with the way this offense is loaded again. Like that's going to be extra possessions that are going to get capitalized on in one way, shape, or form, be it field goal, be it touchdown. And I think those are the things that really matter in those types of games. So I'm fired up for those opportunities. And that's the way I frame it. And there you have it. Well, this has been great, man. Thanks for jumping on here at the end. Thanks to everybody for being a part of the show today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you got anything else that we didn't hit that you're interested in, let me know. Again, at Rhett and NFL is the way to get in touch. So excited to get back here with you after the Hoosiers start this thing 1-0 here, and we'll be back with you on Labor Day. We will have an episode with you and for you on Labor Day. So for all of us here at the Big Red Carpet, I'm Rhett Lewis. Thanks for being with us. We'll catch you next week.